Would you dispute the fact that Israel is becoming increasingly isolated and increasingly viewed as a pariah around the world? You have all these allies now, from Canada to Europe to Australia and beyond, joining the majority in recognizing a Palestinian state officially.
It has been a very long war, also for us. No one expected it to last for more than 2 years, and now we're entering almost 2 years. We didn't expect it to be so long. And I know that many countries want to show that they are doing something, but we are focused on the goals of the war. And the goals are to bring the hostages back and to eliminate Hamas. We have achieved a lot, but we haven't finished the job. And we are committed, and that's what we are telling our allies here. It's very nice to have all those declarations, the conferences, but let's face reality. And President Trump gave a very powerful speech, and he faced reality. The reality is we have 48 hostages still in Gaza. We have to do everything we can, and we will bring them back home. And Hamas is still in parts of Gaza, still they have control. I think that we are moving forward, and we are getting close to the situation where we'll be able to defeat Hamas. So it's not easy for us to hear all those condemnations, but I would ask any leader that came here today, what would you do if you had 48 citizens of your own country now in the tunnels in Gaza?
It is an awful situation for those hostages, there is no doubt about it. But many of the families say that it is your government's policies that are, lengthening their issues and their imprisonment and their captivity in mortal danger. Many of the hostages have said that the latest offensive against Gaza City is essentially signing their death warrant, those who are still alive. Qatar said, when you bombed the negotiators in Qatar, in Doha, that this spells the death. This is a death warrant for those hostages. I see you shaking your head. Why not?
We have no interest to prolong this war.
No, I'm talking about the hostages now.
So I'm telling that also to the hostage families. And we meet them, we host them here. They will come to the UN the day after tomorrow. But, we're doing everything we can to bring them home. And sitting idly by and waiting for Hamas to accept the release of the hostages, it's not going to happen. Only pressure on Hamas will move the needle. And that's exactly what we are doing. We are applying more pressure, and I think it's moving to the right direction.
I've covered many wars, and by the way, I'm going to make a formal petition to you right now to let us into Gaza. You can answer me in a second. But what we've seen is that the United States, your closest ally, said that this time last year, in fact more than a year ago, Israel had accomplished its military objectives. You had defeated Hamas as a ruling entity, as a powerful entity, and you could have gone into more negotiations to get your hostages back then. That's number one. Number two, your own military officials, your former chief of staff of the military, Herzi Halevi, has said that this year, he told a community meeting in southern Israel that 1 in 10 Palestinians, i.e. 10% of Palestinians of Gaza, have been killed or injured since this war began. More than 200,000 people killed or injured, and that Israel took the gloves off and faced no legal restrictions in its actions. This is gone beyond what most people would admit was at the beginning your right to self-defense. You've achieved your military objectives. Now civilians are being killed by the thousands every day and starved to death.
I beg to differ with you about everything. And let's start with
what? Because this is your own people who are saying this.
But let's start with the idea about Hamas. I think every leader that spoke in the General Assembly spoke about the day after without Hamas.
Yes.
Even President Macron said it.
Correct.
And my question is, who exactly is going to remove Hamas? Hamas is
You've already...
Hamas, no, it's not true.
They're saying so.
Hamas is not listening to the decision of the General Assembly. They are not taking orders from the Élysée Palace in Paris. The only way to get rid of Hamas is what we do and what we are doing. So the burden is on our shoulders. It's very easy to say Hamas will not be part of the equation, but it's up to us to complete the job. And we have accomplished a lot, but we haven't finished the job. You have areas today that Hamas is still in control. And if Israel today pull out of Gaza and allow Hamas to rebuild its power, it's a threat to Israel, and the Palestinians are doomed with the regime of Hamas.
The latest facts say that Israel has now controlled and does control 75% of Gaza. And again, that Hamas is, not the major threat that it was and not the power that it was after October 7th. I want to ask you this. As we know, Trump did call for the release, and everybody has. Everybody has called for the release of the remaining hostages. But that has only come so far by negotiations and ceasefire. You've had a few successes in rescuing them, but equally, military attempts have led to deaths of hostages. Now, in the United States, in your most important ally, you are seeing public opinion plummet. And I've heard many of your main supporters here in the United States say this is a danger for Israel, that 9% of young Americans, only 9%, support you currently. A recent YouGov Economist poll says that 43% of Americans say Israel is committing genocide in Gaza. Between 2018 and 21, the share of evangelicals, some of your biggest supporters, under the age of 30, who backed you over the Palestinians, plunged from 69% to 34%. And an AP poll says 50% of Americans say the military response has gone too far.
Christina,
My question again is, when will you go into a day after negotiation to talk about the end of the war?
Maybe you have a short memory, but I don't.
I
haven't forgotten what happened on October 7th.
Nor have I, sir.
And I haven't forgotten the hostages.
Nor have
and
I.
With all due respect to all the leaders and the declarations, we have a commitment.
Yes.
And the commitment is to bring the hostages back.
Correct.
We believe that if we will stop the war now, we will not get the hostages back, and Hamas will stay in power. And actually, all the deals that you mentioned were brought because we used military power. Calls from the UN will not release the hostages. It's only the military and the might of the IDF that actually brought Hamas to a position to negotiate with us. And that's what will be going to happen. We're going to put more pressure, and I believe that we will bring Hamas to a position that we will have to accept a deal, that will release all the hostages and deliver the keys to somebody else. You know, and we heard many people speaking about allowing the Palestinians to rule in Gaza and a demand to give them the keys. We gave them the keys. 20 years ago, exactly 20 years ago, Prime Minister Sharon handed the keys for Gaza to the Palestinians. He uprooted the Jewish communities, took out the military out of Gaza, and we told them, go build your future. Let's live together with coexistence. We are not going to be there. We even left the border with Egypt, and we left it to them. And we saw what happened. So we will not make that mistake again.
Many people say that Prime Minister Sharon, with due respect, pulled out hastily with no negotiations with the international community or with the Palestinian Authority, and just basically left this place to them. Now,
exactly.
You know what happened, and I covered the elections, and I know what happened since. But Israel has had control of that place ever since. And my question to you is, now, what is your reaction going to be? Because to the recognition and to the other things, because we know that Benjamin Netanyahu, your prime minister, has slapped another siege on the West Bank in the last few days, closing the last available in and out place into the West Bank. That's the Ammanbor Bridge into Jordan. We hear some of your more extreme ministers, Ben Gvir, Smotrich and the others, talk about zero ever Palestinian state, so does the Prime Minister, and the expulsion of all Palestinians. Can you tell me, what is it? Is it the expulsion of all Palestinians? Is it trying to get them to voluntarily leave? Is it besiege both the West Bank and Gaza? What is it?
There was no decision of the government of Israel about expelling anyone. That's a lie. The only thing that Prime Minister said that once he will come to the UN to speak here on Friday, meet President Trump on Monday, then he will come back to Israel and discuss what Israel should do following what we saw here at the UN, this charade.
What do you think?
I think what happens here...
What do you think the reaction will be of your government?
I will get to that, but why it's important? Because we believe in negotiations. We are a peaceful nation. We signed peace treaties with Egypt, with Jordan, with Morocco.
Egypt is now calling you the enemy.
With the UAE, with Bahrain. We are a peaceful nation. And also, by the way, we had negotiations with the Palestinians in the past. In that negotiations, you have some key issues to discuss. The issue of statehood, borders, refugees, Jerusalem. What's happening here, this show, they're trying to bypass direct negotiations. Basically, President Macron believes that he will come and recognize Palestinian state and it will happen tomorrow morning. It doesn't work that way in our region. You need both sides to sit and negotiate.